Hello all. Last month I talked about IBM's acquisition of Red Hat and how it's going to unfold and what implications it has got on the open source industry as such. Today I want to talk about certain developments that have happened in last few months and how they are going to form the movement and how basically that is making open source or open source licensing under threat against the cloud model, or what you can see as a clash between open source model and cloud model. So let us look at what happened. Sometime in August, Redis changed its licensing model, and recently in October, MongoDB changed its licensing model. What did they do? They actually changed their licensing to ensure that when their technology is being offered on cloud as a services, they are able to monetize that part. Now, are they just two companies, isolated examples? No, this challenge of open source companies is being faced increasingly by others as well. So in a sense, what open source companies are doing, they are adding a proprietary licensing on top of their open source licensing, so that when it is offered by third parties on the cloud, either these companies, these technology providers have a way of monetizing it, or they simply stopping the service providers from offering these technologies as a service. Now this clash is going to simply grow. Why? Because we are seeing cloud as a way of infrastructure or way of computing becoming increasingly important for enterprises, what is called as cloudification, right? And the big players like AWS, if you look at the list of technologies or list of offerings AWS has, there are tons of open source products and technologies they offer as a service. Now AWS hardly contributes to those products, whereas the companies like MongoDB, Redis, Elasticsearch, who are actually investing in creating these products and technologies, and they are offering it under open source model. But historically, the open source licensing model was not meant for cloud or services model. Open source licensing was more meant for on-premise implementation and the creators having ability to monetize through services. So these service providers have ability to take these open source technologies and offer them as a service without having to pay to the original technology companies. Again, a recent example, AWS recently last month announced that they are going to offer now Kafka as a service, whereas now you have a Confluent as a service provider or company behind Kafka. So there are going to be clashes that how do these technology companies get paid or monetize? They monetize their work because these companies are the ones who have actually put together these open source projects. By definition, open source product used to be, or technologies used to be developed by the community. But over a period of time, now the companies themselves put together developers and make their products available as open source. So the community is completely employed by the company itself, and this company has a commercial interest in monetizing. Nothing wrong in that. Also, nothing wrong on the cloud service providers that they are within their limits to take the open source product and comply to their open source licensing and offer them as a service. So how are we going to actually solve this problem? One of the ways that Redis or MongoDB have tried to address is by adding some proprietary licensing, saying that service providers cannot provide this as a service. Is this a right model for open source development? Traditionally, open source model was being developed by communities. This community means people working all over the world coming together to develop something that is good for the technology and good for the society. But right now, without going into those fundamentals, what we need to address currently is how this clashes with the cloud model has to work out or has to be addressed. This work that has happened in terms of adding a proprietary piece on top of open source model, in the short term it is okay, but it is not really a good model. Is it not again becoming a proprietarization of open source model? We need to think a little deeper and come out with a way. I agree that the companies who are investing in developing a technology making it under open source model, have to have a way of monetizing it, even if it is being offered by third party, by cloud providers, cloud service providers, without having to fight for it. So there has to be a way, and though one beginning has been made, I would certainly see that there would be many more efforts, many more creative ways that a community would address and evolve this. So we are in an interesting time. So stay tuned, and we will see you in next year, refreshed, re-energized. Have a good time. Bye-bye.